So, you're thinking about jumping into the stock market. You're not alone. It's a path thousands of people start every single day. But let's be honest, for most beginners, it feels like trying to read a map in a completely foreign language. Well, in this explainer, we're going to give you that map and the translation key.
Now, this is the question everyone asks first. I mean, a relative of mine called me up just the other day asking this exact same thing. And it seems like the most logical place to start, right? But believe it or not, it's actually not the most important question. Not by a long shot. This is the real question. Before you even think about putting a single dollar into the market, you've got to get really clear on this one. Why? What's your motivation? Because trust me, your answer to this question is what's going to shape your entire journey and ultimately your success. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with why people get drawn in. Then we'll bust some common myths. After that, we'll get into the real power of owning a piece of a business, and I'll walk you through your very first practical step. We'll also clear up the huge difference between investing and trading and wrap up with the absolute keys to success.
So, what gets people hooked on the idea of the stock market in the first place? Well, it usually starts with a story. And that story often sounds a little something like this.
You know the ones. Maybe you heard a friend talking about how their stock just doubled or tripled. Or maybe you were scrolling online and saw one of those flashy posts, a screenshot of some huge profit. These stories create this powerful idea that you can become a millionaire overnight. Now, some people do get started because a sensible person gave them good advice, but a lot of us, we get pulled in by those get-rich-quick stories. And that brings us to our first and probably most important reality check. We have to look past those exciting headlines and start asking some tougher, smarter questions. Think about it. What's usually missing from those amazing success stories? When your friend's money doubled, did it happen in 10 days or was it 10 years? And that trader you saw on social media, are they really winning like that every single day? And to make that massive profit, how much money did they have to put in to begin with? Without those details, the story isn't just incomplete, it's misleading. So let's just get this straight right here and now. The stock market is not some magical machine that just prints money whenever you want it to. People who treat it that way, they often get burned. There's a much smarter, much more powerful reason to be here. All right, let's talk about the real reason to invest. This isn't about quick wins or lottery tickets. It's about protecting yourself from a silent financial threat and really taking control of your own future. And that silent threat? It's called inflation. It's a pretty simple idea, but it is incredibly powerful. All it means is that the money you have today, well, it's going to be able to buy less stuff in the future. It's constantly, silently losing its value. I mean, just think about it. The price of everything, from your groceries to gas for your car to a new phone, it all goes up over time. So if your money is just sitting there in a savings account, it's actually losing buying power every single year. You're basically getting a little bit poorer without even spending a dime.
And here's a perfect example of what that looks like in the real world. 5 years ago, $100 might have gotten you a full cart of groceries. Today, that same $100 might only get you half a cart. To beat this, you can't just save your money, you have to make it grow.
So how do you make it grow? You invest it in assets. The simplest way to think about an asset is just something that makes you money. And stocks, they're one of the most powerful and accessible assets you can possibly own.
And here's the amazing part. You already interact with these assets every single day. The salt you'll use, the mobile network you're on, that phone in your hand, or the pizza you order for dinner. So many of these things come from companies that are publicly traded.
So what if instead of just being a customer, instead of just giving these companies your money, you could become an owner? Imagine that. Every time someone else bought their products, you'd benefit. Well, that's exactly what investing in the stock market lets you do.
See, when you buy a share of a company, you're not just buying a number on a screen. You are literally buying a right of ownership. You become a part owner of that business. And when that company does well, when it grows, when its profits go up, the value of your little piece of ownership, your share, it goes up right along with it.
Okay, so that's the why. That's the big picture. Now, let's switch gears and move from theory to action. What is the very first practical step you should actually take to get started?
Here is a super simple 3-step plan. First, you need what's called a DMAT account. It's just the online account you use to buy and sell stocks. Second, pick 3 to 5 companies that you already know and trust, the ones whose products you use every day.
Third, and this is so important, invest an amount of money that you're totally comfortable with, just to get your feet wet. The goal here is not to make a killing, it's just to learn. Because you just can't. You can't learn how to swim by reading a book about it from the side of the pool. You have to actually get in the water. The moment your own money is in the market, even if it's just a small amount, your entire mindset changes. You'll start paying attention, you'll start watching videos, you'll learn in a way that you just never could from the sideline. All right, so now you're in the water. The next thing you need to do is decide how you want to swim. There are two very, very different ways to approach the stock market, and it is crucial that you understand the difference. On one hand, you have investing. This is the long game. It's about long-term growth, thinking like you own the business, and letting the magic of compounding do the heavy lifting for you over years. On the other hand, you have trading. This is all about short-term profits. It's a high-level skill, it's high risk, and it's constant action. For anyone who is just starting out, the advice is clear. Start with an investing mindset. So finally, what are the core ideas that separate the people who succeed from the ones who get washed out? Well, it all comes down to having the right mindset for the long haul. First, the learning never, ever stops. Second, you have to understand that real experience takes time. It can take a year or two just to begin to grasp the complexities of something like trading. Third, you've got to reframe your early losses. Any money you lose in the beginning isn't a failure. Think of it as the tuition fee you paid for your education. And finally, and this is the big one, patience is the single most important virtue in this entire game. Look, this isn't a casino, even though a lot of people treat it that way. It's a market where you can become a part owner in the world's greatest businesses, and it rewards the people who are patient. So the last question you need to ask yourself is this: are you here to place a bet, or are you here to build your future as an investor? Your answer to that will determine everything.